Hello, everyone. I am very pleased to welcome you to today's Alma Mater's event, Cooking with Jill from What's in the Fridge. My name is Jessica Muss. I am a Barnard class of 1998 alum. I am chair of the Alma Mater's Committee of the Alumni Association of Barnard College. I am also the parent of a Barnard student 2024. Go Barnard. The mission of Alma Mater's is to provide mothers with thoughtful discussion and programming on all aspects of parenting and work-life balance by hosting presentations, workshops, and discussions that span the years of parenting from prenatal to college-age children. As a quick reminder, this online event enables an attendee to participate through a personal device's microphone and or camera. An attendee may elect not to participate through use of a microphone and or camera. The election of an attendee to use a microphone or camera constitutes a release and waiver of rights in the capture of the attendee's image, likeness, and or voice for the exclusive use of Barnard College. I am delighted to introduce Jill Efron. Jill started her own personal chef business over a decade ago. As more people took to the kitchen during the pandemic, she took her kitchen and teaching skills to the virtual world with the launch of quarantine cooking classes and has now changed back to her original business name, which is What's in the Fridge. I now turn the program over to Jill. Thanks, Jill.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you guys for having me. I am so excited to cook with you guys today. And what we're doing today is a spinach pesto lasagna, which is pretty popular in my household because I'm always wanting to get more vegetables into my kids and into my family in general. But before we start, if you are cooking along with me and if I am moving too quickly, you can always say, hey, can you stop for a second or can you slow down? I'm here for you. If you have any questions, you can either feel free to unmute yourself and ask or put it in the chat and Mary will ask me the question on your behalf. So before we get started, the most important thing to do, I'm sure you all, that's my oven coming to temperature, and that's where I'll start first. Preheat your oven to 375. Second is to always wash your hands. Your hands, doesn't matter if it's COVID or flu season, your hands should always be clean when you're in the kitchen. It is your first line of defense of not getting sick in the kitchen or from your cooking or anyone else's cooking. So once you guys have preheated your oven to 375 and washed your hands, just give me a thumbs up and we will get started on our pesto. And for those of you who are watching along and not participating today, that's great too. I have some clients who do the same thing. They just want to watch me cook and ask questions. And so I think that's great too. And you just do it at a later time. So whatever works for you. Are we guys, the guys I can see whose cameras are on, are you guys ready to get cooking? All right, cool. So the first thing we're going to do is make our spinach pesto. And I'm using 3 cloves. Actually, I've got 2 big cloves I'm going to use. Sometimes I'll use 3 cloves of garlic. It really depends on the size of the garlic. So I'm just going to cut off the root and get the skin off and place that into my food processor. And I happen to love garlic more than the average person. So if 2 even feels a lot for you, use 1. Do what works for you because you're the one who's eating this. I mean, I'm eating it over here, but you have to do what works for your palate. So I'm putting 2 cloves of garlic in my food processor. So I'm going to back up for 1 second. Before I always get started, I always make sure I have everything in its place. So I have all my ingredients for my pesto. I have my garlic, I have my olive oil, my basil, my parsley, and my spinach. And what I've done with some of my basil is I've taken a few leaves set aside. So I'm going to show you how to do a chiffonade. And I also, when I'm picking through basil, I love these little guys, right? It kind of reminds me of being at a restaurant. And so you can kind of decorate your lasagna or a lasagna piece with like the little baby basil that comes in the bunches that look like little hearts. I always set them aside for decoration. And this is only if you want to garnish your lasagna at the end. I also am going to reserve half of my bunch of parsley, which I have here, half for my pesto and half to just chop up for garnish on my lasagna. And I have my spinach and I have my kosher salt. If you want to add pepper, go for it. If your family likes red pepper flakes, you can also add that into the mix later. So that's my ingredients for my pesto. I also have my lasagna stuff ready. I've got my 2 8x8 pans. I have my lasagna sheets, my sauce, my bowl. Then I'm going to put the cheese and pesto in, measuring cups, and my 3 cheeses out here. So I am ready to go. And it makes life easier because I'm not running back and forth to my fridge and cabinet. So with that said, I've got 2 cloves of garlic in here because they're pretty large. I have my 2 cups of basil that I washed and dried. And I'm going to add a half a bunch of parsley to this. And pop that in, even with some stems. I'm not going to sit there and pick it off. It's getting pureed. You're not going to taste it anyway. And when you have soft stems with parsley, it doesn't matter if it gets blended into your blend. Someone have a question? See something in the chat.
Are you going to provide a recipe, a printed recipe after this?
Oh, you don't have one?
No.
Does anyone else have the printed recipe?
I printed mine out.
There should have been a printed recipe in an email. Is that correct, Mary?
Never got the email.
I did.
I didn't either. Okay.
I didn't get it.
Can you drop it in chat? Can someone just drop it in chat?
So did you just get a shopping list and not the recipe?
There were 3 attachments and one was a shopping list and one was the directions.
I just have the shopping list.
Okay, I'll look for it. Okay.
So yeah, so the recipe is available. Do you guys have it?
I have it. What did I do with the rest of my?
But yes, you'll definitely get a printed recipe for sure. So in the meantime, I've got the spinach in here and I'm just using a box of the 5-ounce container of spinach. And so sometimes it gets a little full in my processor. And so all I'm going to do, no big deal, is put the lid on and just blend it a little. To just get it down a little so I can add some more spinach to it. I didn't add my oil yet. I'm going to add that at the end. So I'm just processing this for a little bit. To get it on there, and I'm gonna add some spinach. And you can also do this with arugula, kale, Swiss chard, like any greens that are wilting in your fridge. This is a great thing to do with them, is just turn them into a pesto, toss them with pasta, put it over fish or chicken, or put it into a lasagna. It's a really great way to get more vegetables into your diet if you're looking for getting more vegetables into your diet, especially greens. All right, so. See, is there a question in the chat?
When I processed the spinach and everything, I did it in stages so that, yeah, because otherwise you can't get it all into the bowl. So you've got to do it in stages.
Exactly, that's what I just did too.
Yeah.
Because even I've got a big processor here, I still have to do it in stages to get it all in there.
Yeah.
And then I will scrape down the bottom. And at this point, I see I need to add some oil to get some liquid in there to get everything down. I'm adding 1/4 cup, and I don't measure with a measuring cup all the time. Sometimes I'll just do some glug, 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 and like eyeball it, because sometimes the spinach may be more watery or not. And so it already provides some liquid. And then you're going to add about a teaspoon of salt, or I like to do just a few pinches. This is one of those recipes you cannot mess up. And so I don't really sit there like measuring, because everything's going to taste good in the end. So I've added my olive oil. I've added my salt. I have my spinach, my parsley, and my basil. And my guy does not want to mash down. Anyone else have that issue? It's being finicky tonight.
It does do that.
It does, which is why I don't put it in a blender. And I'm gonna try pulsing it. Okay. So now I'm gonna use my hands. But I'm glad we're all experiencing this together, because normal. This is life, right? It doesn't always go as planned and as perfect as we wanted to, even though we've got people on camera with you who've never met me. Now we're moving. So now I'm gonna add more olive oil. There we go.
Would we add pepper as well at this point if we're
Absolutely. You can, I don't do pepper in my house anymore, but you can absolutely add pepper if you're a pepper family. You can even add lemon zest if you wanted to, or squeeze a lemon for some freshness. As far as how mushy should it look, here's how mushy I had my pesto. And I think the key to life, you guys, we just discovered is olive oil. Just add olive oil and things get better. Some say bacon, I'm just saying olive oil tonight. So here's how my pesto looks. It kind of looks like frozen spinach, right? How it's always chopped up. And if you'd like, you can give it a taste. And I didn't add nuts to this, and I'm not adding Parmesan to this, which is what you do in a normal pesto, because we're adding a bunch of cheese. So I'm just going to pour it into a big, let's make sure you guys can see me, into a big bowl.
Don't say. No. Why not?
Did you use all of the spinach?
I did. If you have a 5-ounce container, I used 5 ounces, which is 3 cups. So I used
Okay.
all the spinach and about half a bunch of parsley.
Why don't you add nuts?
I don't add nuts because I'm putting it in a lasagna. And
Yeah.
I feel like that gets lost in there. If I was doing it like yesterday, I did a class where we did caprese skewers and a regular pesto, and that I put nuts in because you can see it and you can taste it. I think nuts are so expensive sometimes that I don't want to lose it in this type of dish. Does that make sense? You can absolutely add nuts, and it adds more protein to your dish. It's just a personal preference that I don't on this dish. Anyone else have any questions before I move on to the next step?
I've usually when I make lasagna and I make the sauce, I will often add an egg, but
Yep.
you did not add an egg.
No, I was wondering if someone's going to call me out on the egg. My answer ready for you. I do not add egg to my lasagna, and here is why. Number one, I don't know about you guys, but I'm in California and we are having a tough time getting eggs right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, number one, there's an egg shortage. Number two, they're expensive. And so I save it for my kids' breakfast because that's a better protein. And three, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, I don't see a big difference when I add an egg to my lasagna. So to me, it's like rather save that egg and actually eat the egg and have it get lost. I know it's supposed to make it creamier, but I feel like when I add a pesto like this, or if I'm doing a sauce, that takes care. So,
I get a lot of richness from the ricotta.
exactly, and from the cheeses, the same
From
thing
the
with the
cheeses,
salt. Like I didn't add a tremendous amount of salt in my pesto because I'm relying on the cheeses and I've jarred sauce to give me that salt. So that's my logic. That's how I work my kitchen. But if you guys are used to adding an egg, feel free to add an egg because you're the ones who are eating it. So I have, oops, a piece of garlic that didn't get mashed. I have my pesto, which is really pretty and vibrant green right here in a bowl. And to this, I am going to add 16 ounces of ricotta. And we're gonna make this really pretty mixture. And I know, like, so the reason why I do this as I'm gonna hold for the helicopter flying above. So the reason why I do it as a pesto as opposed to just layering with spinach, which I used to do, is that I have a kid who will sit there and pick it out. He can't pick out pesto. So if anyone has picky eaters, this is how you get the greens into them, because he devours this and he can't pick out the green. So that's my trick. So because, and I don't know about you guys. So today, backing up a little, what I want to do is show you how to cook once, use twice, meaning I'm going to make 2 lasagnas using the same ingredients, but I'm doing it more like a portion thing. So for a family of 4, and this 8x8 is enough for the 4 of us because this lasagna does serve 12, so you can get 6 pieces out of an 8x8. And you can do it in a 9x13 if you'd like, cook the whole thing, cut it.
That's what I'm doing.
Yep, cut it into pieces to freeze.
Yeah, freeze it.
You just keep it in your fridge all week. But my goal today was to show you how to make dinner tonight and have dinner in your freezer for another busy night. So I am going to I added my cheese, my ricotta to my spinach pesto. I have 2 cups of mozzarella. I am going to only add a cup of it in here and save the cup for the topping of my lasagna. So 1 cup. And I know some lasagna recipes call for a lot more cheese, but when I'm trying to lighten things up a little, I do less cheese, but add more pesto. And I don't notice the missing cheese at all. And so that's 1 cup of mozzarella into my pesto with the 16 ounces of ricotta. Next up, I call for a cup of Parmesan. But I'm going to only use a half a cup for my mixture and save the other half for the top of my lasagna. Or if you don't want to put parm on the top of your lasagna, you don't have to. You can put the full cup into the mixture. Again, you can't mess this up. This like lasagna is foolproof, which is why I love it so much. All right. So kind of have a little messy station here. Let me clean it up for you guys. You can see me okay. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. All right. So I have this big mound of cheese and pesto.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Some of us may be lactose intolerant and we can eat the rest of the cheeses, but we can't eat ricotta. Does
Okay.
anybody have a suggestion of what to use instead of ricotta?
I sure do. Kite, so my son is dairy free and gluten free and sugar free and soy free, all that. So what I do for him is Kite Hill ricotta is good. However, who just asked me about an egg. I will absolutely add an egg to that because Kite Hill does not have the same texture as cow's milk, or this is actually sheep's milk. I'm using, if you can handle sheep's milk, this is Bellwether Farms. I don't know if you can get it wherever you are, but that's what I'm using here. But I like Kite Hill for the ricotta, and I do add an egg to moisten it up so it mixes well with the other cheese I'll use. And I'll use Miyokos, is that how you say it? Miyokos for the mozzarella. So that's what I do for a dairy-free lasagna. And I will use Jovial lasagna noodles. They're not oven ready, so I'll have to cook those first. But yeah, you can absolutely make this vegan if you wanted to.
Thank you. Barilla does carry a gluten-free, no boil pasta noodle, which I
They
just
do.
got.
I have not tried it. Let me
Yeah.
know how.
And Jovial just came out with one, Jill.
Oh, they have a no bake one now?
Yes, they just came out with it.
Oh, wow, that's great. Because I still have, he'll be so happy because I'm still boiling his noodles for him. Because I use Jovial, Angie and Dream, Bonza. Yeah, those are the three pastas I'll use for him. And he's loves lasagna. All right, so this is so cool, right?
Do you find the difference between already boiled and non-already boiled lasagna? I mean noodles.
I'm gonna guess it's how it's processed because I mean I could go. I have both here, but the non-boil it's just like a lot thinner, and you can just tell like the way they made it is just completely different than your typical pasta. Typical pasta lasagna noodle I feel is so much harder, and this feels a little flimsy. That the amount of liquid we use just cooks it faster than the other. But you know what? You know what I'll do sometimes is I will, when I'm cooking regular pasta, and I use DiCecco is the brand I use when I'm not using Barilla for lasagna, but I use DiCecco for my regular pasta. I won't boil a big pot of water. I will put it in with like this much water in a frying pan and add sauce to it and let it cook that way. And the starches make it even thicker. So you can cook a regular noodle. I just think you've got to cook with a lot more liquid in it to break down the starches to make it pliable.
Actually, I have a question.
Yeah.
So my husband went and bought all the ingredients for me, which was very sweet. And after bringing home several that didn't say no cook, he brought this.
Uh-huh.
And it says on this, you can use it as you can just use it without cooking first.
Oh, great.
Have you tried that?
I
with
have
this one?
not. I don't because I stick with what I know, but that's good to know. I will now try that.
Yeah, I'm just going to read. It says somewhere it says you oven ready preparation,
Oh,
but you just lay it. Yeah, so there you go.
there you
Thank
go. Oh no, I'm so old school, and I used to when I was 3, 4. Why it shortened me on? Oh no, there it is. Lasagna was my top seller when I was a personal chef when I had my daughter old, and I'm not Italian, but it is my favorite thing to make, and it was my top seller. And I would use fresh noodles, and I boiled those too. But then this became easier than trying to track down fresh noodles that didn't expire on the grocery store shelves. So, does everyone have their cheese mixture mixed up with their pesto? Okay, cool. The next step, if you are doing the 8x8s like I'm doing here, what I do with a box of Barilla is I split it in half. So 8 noodles in this one, 8 noodles in this one. And it's just going to be, you'll see, it's just 2 noodles that we'll do on the bottom, like so. So I'm going to start with, I'm only going to do 1 lasagna at a time, just because I want you guys to get it in the oven so it has time to cook and we can taste it together. So got my cheese over here. And also while this lasagna is cooking, I want to show you how I cut up herbs as my topping. So the first thing we're going to do, we have sauce. I'm a fan of Rao's. And you can measure it out. I call it for 40 ounces. Most lasagna recipes call for 20 to 32. I like a lot of sauce. It's really your call too, how much sauce you like. So, for those of us who aren't as strong in getting an open jar, I wanted to show you my little trick is I take a can opener and I find like the little lip in the lid. Pop. You don't have to hurt your wrists anymore. That's my little trick for today. I just pour a little sauce on the bottom and take a spoon and spread it around. Some people will spray cooking spray. I'm not a cooking spray person, and this does just fine for me. So I do my little layer of sauce there. And then I add my 2 sheets of lasagna noodles, and they will expand in the oven when they're heated. And then, oh, sorry, I got to stop myself. For sauces, I'm really big on not doing cross-contamination because we are using a spoon here. It's touching cheese and it's not raw. No one's going to die or get sick, but I am a little on the anal side about cross-contamination. So I will pour this jar in here and just spoon out of the bowl, just in the event, and this is just as an example, and I just, it's practice makes not perfect, but just in case I wasn't using this whole jar, I don't want to dip my spoon back in, put it in something that's, not what I'm going to be using the jar for again. You know what I mean? I do that with peanut butter and jelly too. Separate spoons, separate knives. That's me. Anyway, my sauce.
And actually, my kids did a science project about milk spoiling and other things. And if there's a teensy bit of tomato sauce, it makes everything spoil so much quicker.
Yeah.
So that's why also it's helpful.
Yep, because of the acid. And that's a really good point too, because what if this jar, I wasn't going to eat it for like another 2 weeks and it's in the fridge, but my cheese already expired and there's some cheese in the sauce I wrote in my sauce. So this way, so thank you for giving that example. So this way we're keeping everything pristine. So I have my sheets there and I just take sorry. I'm just used to going on robotics here. Automatic. Split your cheese in half. Because if you're making 2 lasagnas, split it in half. Because half is going towards this lasagna and half is going towards the next lasagna. So we're gonna layer our cheese mixture.
I'm so far behind. She's like already putting it together and I'm still making my sorry.
It's okay. Where are you in the process?
I thought I was muted. I apologize.
It cussed me out behind my back, so we're all good.
I just came to ask if she could help, and I'm like, no, we're behind.
Where are you in your process? She can help. She can do like an easy job.
Yeah, I'm still
We're behind too. And my daughter, someone must have used the food processor, so it's in the dishwasher. So I'm like madly chopping everything by hand. It's going to be a very rustic pesto.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one. We're behind because we walked in the door at 4:55, so we didn't have anything prepped.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll slow down.
I walked in at 5:05, so you're ahead of me.
Yeah.
Could you repeat how much of the pesto we're putting on this layer?
So basically I just take a couple of spoonfuls. All you're doing, it's like eyeballing.
Okay.
That's why I don't want anyone to be married to measurements when we're making this, because I heard what you guys said. I came in at this time, I came in at this time. You're rushing to get dinner on the table. Don't measure, eyeball. So I'm going to eyeball it with you so you guys can just feel comfortable, and it's going to be like less dishes. So all you're going to do to catch up those who are falling behind, sauce on the bottom, 2 noodles, and then a layer of the cheese mixture on top. I just do like a thinnish layer because we've got layers. We're going to have more layers coming. And as a reminder, because I am making 2, if you're not making 2 lasagnas, don't worry about this step. Because we're making 2, I split my mixture in half. So I know 1/2 is for this lasagna and 1/2 is for the next. Next up, I'm going to do like 2 big globs. That's a cooking term, glob of sauce on top. And I'm just spreading it over the mixture. And you'll see this is why I don't want to dip my spoon back in. I'm going to add like another glob. So 3 globs. So there. Now I'm going to do my next layer. I'm just repeating steps. So it's 2 noodles and some more cheese. So is everyone in the lasagna making phase? Okay, good. Oh, so for whoever didn't have the working process in your chopping processor and your chopping, next time, don't worry. Just you don't need to finely chop. You can just do a rough chop on everything because everything's gonna wilt in your oven. And so it's just gonna melt in. I created this so my kid will eat greens. So if you don't have a picky kid, you can just layer, just sprinkle the layers or mix it in with your cheese, whatever you like. Again, it's all winding up in the same spot, your stomach. All right, that's my second layer of cheese. And I'm doing 3 heaping spoonfuls of sauce. And I'm spreading it on the lasagna. I'm gonna add a little more. So this one wanted 4 because my measurement wasn't accurate, but that's okay. So we're just layering flavors. And another layer of noodles. And spreading the cheese out. What I'll sometimes do if I have time on my hands is that I will make a veggie bolognese to add to this lasagna. So I'll take my sauce or I'll take a can of plum tomatoes. But I will first saute carrot, celery, mushrooms, and onion and get them really sweated down. And then I'll add the sauce and let that simmer for a bit. And I'll add that instead of just regular plain tomato sauce. And that just adds more vegetable to the dinner. So my next layer. And some more sauce.
Did I hear
Let's go with
of mushrooms?
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
Did I hear a mention of mushrooms?
Oh, not for this recipe.
No? Okay.
No. I was saying what I sometimes do
Oh,
is I make a sauce that has carrot, celery, mushroom, and onion, and I'll use that. But no mushrooms on this.
okay.
Yep, you're all good.
When I was in grad school, I lived with a whole bunch of Italian students and everybody thought their lasagna was the best. So we had a lasagna bagel.
And
it was a lot of fun.
That's so cool. I'm on my final layer of lasagna. And I'm just going to cover it with sauce. So that's like 4.
For those of us who are behind, can you repeat the order, please? We got sauce, lasagna, and cheese mixture.
Yep.
And
So
parm.
you have sauce on the bottom to cover your pan. And then you're adding your 2. Are you doing 1 lasagna or 2 lasagnas?
2.
2. Okay. So you're putting 2 noodles down. And then you're adding your cheese. So divide your cheese mixture in half. And then take a couple spoonfuls of that and spread it onto your noodle.
By cheese mixture, we're talking the pesto with the ricotta?
Correct.
Yep.
And then you add about 4 spoonfuls of sauce to that and spread that around.
Okay.
And then you add your 2 noodles to cover that. And repeat: cheese, sauce, noodles, cheese, sauce.
Okay.
Noodles. Kind of becomes a little mantra.
Just a quick question.
What about the parm and the mozzarella? Were they supposed to be mixed in with the
Yes.
pesto? Yes, okay.
Yes, and if you didn't, so you guys, good question. If you didn't by chance do that, no big deal, because when you put your cheese mixture down with the pesto, you can always sprinkle your mozzarella and then add your sauce. Again, you cannot mess this up. Like, this is a foolproof recipe. So if you didn't put it in with your pesto and ricotta mixture, no big deal.
Just a quick question. I'm debating like whether to make both batches. I'm just trying to figure out how long do you usually suggest you can keep the lasagna for, in terms of it being fresh.
So in terms of it being fresh, so if you make both batches tonight, so you want to cook off both batches tonight?
Right, questioning. Like,
Basically, so what I would suggest, this is just like what I'm doing for tonight. is I'm cooking this one off right now. I'm gonna add foil to it. I'm not adding a layer of cheese yet. I will do that at the end when it calls for the last 10 minutes of cooking. But I am doing this tonight. And then this one, I'm just gonna freeze, just uncooked. And so when I wanna make dinner again, I pop it out. But if you wanna make both tonight, how long will it keep fresh? I would say like 3 to 4 days in the fridge. But it also will dry out in the fridge. And so I always suggest to add some sauce to it when you're reheating it. And another layer of cheese because it's cheese.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions? All right, so while you guys are working, I'm gonna go pop this in my oven for 25 minutes and set my timer. And it feels, you're gonna be like, oh my God, it didn't go all the way to the top. You'll feel how heavy your lasagna is. It's like it's got a nice heft to it. So it's a filling meal. I will be right back and I will answer any.
One quick, I'll ask you. Just, if I'm making a 9 by 13, do I cook it for more than 25 minutes?
No, actually.
Still 25 minutes.
Still
Okay.
25 minutes. If you're using the Barilla noodles, according to the Barilla.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still 25. And then I do an additional 10 to put the cheese on top when I uncover it. Because I feel like the cheese tends to stick to the foil otherwise. So once I did my final layer of noodle, sauce went on that, and I covered it tightly with foil, and I'm going to put it in a 375 oven for 25. I will be right back. How's everybody doing? Is everyone, I'm just gonna check the chat here for a second. Is everyone up?
I have a quick question. The Barilla box says to cook it at 425 for 40 minutes.
Oh, do you have the cooked noodles or the no boil noodles?
I have the oven ready lasagna.
Really?
But I have the gluten-free one.
Oh, that's
And
different.
the Disseco also says the same. It says,
yeah,
425 for 24 minutes.
Yeah, so
Should I follow the recipe on the box? What should we do?
Yes, always follow the recipe on the box because they're the makers of the lasagna. And so they know. I mean, you can experiment, but when I have taught this class, I've taught a handful of lasagna classes and people do wind up with different boxes of lasagna. I always say, follow the lasagna box. So I'm reading. Yeah, I'm reading all that. Oh yeah, hit the lid against the counter to pop it open. I do that too. I'm just always afraid I'm gonna hit the glass. I'm talking about glass bottles here. I'm always afraid I'm gonna hit the glass when that happens. So I just play it safe and I don't mess around. So while you guys are assembling, actually I'm gonna wait. Once you guys have it in the oven, I will then talk to you about garnish because I want to show you what I'm going to do and just so you can see it. And I'm going to also show you plating because I pre-cooked a little guy here. Oh, it's not that hot anymore. But I want to show you what you can also do. I like to make them in loaf pans. Like if you're making, banana bread loaf pan, I like to make lasagna here. And it just takes like one noodle across and you just layer with your cheeses. And this to me, I mean, we're big lasagna eaters here. I'll cut this in half and it serves 2 people. So it's like, depending on how many are in your household, if you're single or if you're a family, sometimes making it like this and you can make a bunch of different, loaf pan lasagnas and keep them in your freezer and just pop it out for just 2 servings. And that works too. So I have that here. Also, what I'll sometimes do, if I have, especially those who are doing the 9 by 13, if your lasagna is getting really high in your pan, I like to use a sheet pan underneath. So if it bubbles, you don't not destroy. That's so dramatic. You don't mess up your oven. You don't get it really dirty. The pan catches it for you. So.
Now, why do you freeze it unbaked?
Okay. So I'm going to show you how to freeze it unbaked. I'm going to quickly assemble this one and show you how to freeze an unbaked lasagna. So I'm going to do the same steps again.
Can you freeze a baked lasagna?
Yes, you can. You can, so if you want to, you can, but I don't, I mean, yeah, I'm trying to decide. My mom and I do this all the time. She cuts hers up into pieces once they're cooked and she freezes it like that. So if you want to do that, it depends. Are you going to want to serve it family style, or are you going to want to have it as like a lunch here and there, or a couple pieces here and there? It really depends how you want to eat your lasagna. So yeah, once you cook it, let it cool completely. And then the way I do my freezing method is I do wax paper and then I wrap it. It's called catering wrap, where you really wrap it under and over with saran wrap. And then I do foil and I label and I put the date on it, because I try not to keep any of my home cooked foods in the freezer for longer than 6 months. It just goes bad. It doesn't go bad. It just loses the quality because freezer burn can start to happen. Even though it's wrapped well, it just loses some of the quality.
I have a question about the final cheese layer.
Yeah.
You said you take the foil off, you put the final cheese layer on for an extra 10 minutes. Do you put the foil back on?
No, and when I say extra cheese layer, I'm talking about mozzarella, like the mozzarella we had set aside. I'm not talking about the ricotta. To make sure that goes inside your layers of lasagna. When I take
Wait, I thought it was Parmesan. Isn't the final layer Parmesan?
it can be both.
Oh,
So I'm doing mozzarella. I reserved, so we used 2 cups of mozzarella and 1 cup went into the lasagna, it went into the ricotta mixture. And I saved the other cup to go on top of the lasagna for when it comes out. And if you don't do that, no big deal. Parmesan works just as well.
but you take the tin foil off to do that.
Yes.
To
So
bake it.
Exactly. Some recipes, like the Barilla one, calls for you putting the cheese on to the lasagna before putting it into the oven and with the foil. And then I just don't do that because sometimes I find it sticks to the foil and then you've lost all that good cheese. So that's why for the last 10 minutes of cooking, I will take the foil off and I will put the cheese on and just let it melt. But to each their own.
No, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Sure. And then we have a big debate in our house. Like my husband likes the cheese like nice and brown. I like it just melted. And this is like a problem with pizza too, because I like it just melted and he needs it like brown where it's not stringy anymore. And I need that cheese pull. So that's important to me. But you do what's important to you and what works for you.
For those of us behind, we're almost caught up here, but would you mind reviewing, please, the final layer? Oh, maybe you're up to it now on the second one. So I have right now, we've got lasagna, and then we have basil and our cheeses and sauce. Should we slap on one more layer of the pasta and top it with sauce and cheese, or how do we, or just end it with cheese?
So your final, so you've got 4 layers if you're doing the 2 lasagnas. And so your final layer is your 2 noodles and just sauce.
Okay.
That's it. So all your ricotta and pesto mixture is inside your lasagna and just the layer of sauce.
And what about cheese on top of that? No?
I wait until, that's what we were just talking about.
Oh, okay.
No. I like to wait for the last 10 minutes of cooking and add it then versus adding it now, because I sometimes accidents happen where the cheese gets on the foil and you pull up your foil and there's all your cheese. So
gotcha.
I make it foolproof.
Okay, but we are putting sauce on top here.
Absolutely, always. Because
it was borderline, glad we cracked open that extra jar. Ooh, and we have just enough. Ours were very full. We actually have like 2 and 2.5. And three small pans, but 2 are short of that.
Oh, and that's the other thing I want to tell you. When you're bringing, I like when people ask questions because it reminds me to talk to you about certain things. Our ovens, we're all at 375, some are at 400 because we're using different noodles, but our ovens are calibrated differently. So we can all be at 375, but someone might have an uneven cooking oven. Someone might have a faster or a slower cooking oven. So the way to tell, you're like, it's 25 minutes and it's not fully cooked. It's okay. The way you want to tell is you'll see it bubbling under. Everything should be bubbling like around here. That's how you know your lasagna is done, when you see it's bubbling, so you know it's cooked. And the other thing is, because we're not using egg, I'm not worried about anything raw, you know, so no one's going to get sick, but nothing's going to be undercooked. You just want it cooked through. How's everyone doing? Does everyone, or most people, have their lasagna in the oven? Yeah. All right, cool. This is my last slider. And I measured out more cheese than I needed, because the cheese I bought was a 12-ounce container. So I was eyeballing 16 ounces. And so what happens if you have a 12-ounce container and you then buy 2 12 ounces and you wind up with 24 and you only need 16? What do you do with extra cheese? Well, one, you can make your layers more cheesy, or 2, you can save this and mix it in with some penne pasta and sauce and bake it off into a baked ziti. Or if you have, sometimes, I don't know about you guys, when I've used like the boiled noodles, I wind up with extra noodles. You can either make a smaller lasagna in the loaf pan like I showed you, or do like a lasagna roll where you have the cooked noodle and you have the cheese and you just roll it up and can put it in a pan. So none of these ingredients ever goes to waste.
I am way far behind, and I am trying to figure out if the tofu that I bought crumbled up could work in place of ricotta. Have you ever done that?
I have not. You know what? It's just not going to give you the creamy consistency. But I often wonder, and I don't play with tofu, so maybe since you have it, you could answer this. Like, what would happen if you put it in the food processor with your pesto in the future? Would it turn into a smooth mixture? You know,
Great idea. I'm going to do that. Thank you.
Sure.
I will be able to tell you.
I use tofu. I'm lactose intolerant. Tofu mixed with hummus and garlic and a little nutritional yeast that I borrowed from another website to mesh in with your recipe.
Oh, smart.
It's not real smooth, but it looks good. Tastes good.
I bet you it's going to taste really good with the spinach pesto. That sounds like the hummus and the spinach pesto sounds like a really good mixture. All right, so for freezing, okay, so it's twofold, right? If you don't always keep mozzarella in your fridge, and let's say you want to make dinner one night and the chicken's out of the freezer and you don't have mozzarella, you might be a little angry at yourself that you don't have a topping. So yes, in this situation, I will take mozzarella because I'm freezing this one, and I will just sprinkle it on top like so. And I will take some Parmesan and sprinkle that on top as well. And to prevent sticking, my first line of defense in freezing is wax paper. And and also to prevent air from getting to it. Can you guys see this okay? Do I need to lower my camera or move you guys good? Okay. What I'll do is I'll press down so the wax paper gets in here, just to prevent air from getting to my food. So it looks, oh my God, it's heavy. I'm strong. It's okay. So it looks like this. Then I will take plastic wrap, a big piece, and I apologize to the environment when I do this. Those of you who are anti-plastic, sorry. And I cover half like so and get it underneath, and then I do another piece of plastic. And cover the other half. So I just use it to cover both sides and wrap it under. And I'm going to do one more for good measure, because I don't know about your freezer, but mine sometimes gets cluttered. And so I don't want any wrappings to fall off, and I ruined all this hard work because I'm trying to do this for my future self. My future self will thank my present self for making dinner tonight. and I just put the dish on it, wrap it. So we are all covered, no air. And then last but not least, some foil. And I forgot my Sharpie, but I'll use a black Sharpie and I'll write spinach pesto lasagna, 4 servings, and today's date. So I know what it is in the freezer. And then when I look at it in 2 months, I'm like, oh, I better eat this soon because I only want to give it 6 months in my freezer. And that's how I make my freezer lasagna. So 1 dinner's in the oven and 1 dinner's done for future tired, busy Jill. So how's everybody doing? All right, check in the time. The next thing I want to show you.
I have a question. Wouldn't it be more energy efficient in terms of your oven to just cook them both at the same time? And then,
Absolutely. Okay, you totally could if you're thinking about it from that perspective. I don't cook it at the same time simply because I like it fresh, meaning I want it to taste fresh when I go to eat it again, which is why I'm not cooking it now. And when you think about it, when you go to the store and you buy like a Stouffer's lasagna, it's not already cooked. It's already assembled. And so you're not reheating it, you're actually cooking it for the first time. But you absolutely could do it that way if that works for you. It's a matter of taste and time. And so you do what works for you. I'm just showing how I do it in my household. And also, if you cook it now too, you can also, as I said before, you can cut it into slices and then wrap it individually, wax paper, saran, foil, put it in a freezer safe bag. And so you've got individual portions whenever you want. This is to feed a family in the future. But like for my parents, when my mom does this, she'll put it in the bag. So she and my dad can just take out slices of lasagna whenever they want.
And do you just put it in the oven frozen, or do you?
I let it sit out for like 10-20 minutes. So I'm not putting a frozen thing in the oven, and I'm not going to crack the glass of a Pyrex. And that's why I'm using Pyrex. If I'm making it like for night oven, I'm just doing like 1 lasagna, I would get a little fancier and use like my fancier baking dishes so it's pretty. But for time efficiency and for freezer storage, I use Pyrex. So yeah, I would let it sit out for about 10-15 minutes to make sure it's not frozen solid. So you don't put a frozen, like ice cold into a hot oven and then crack your, even though Pyrex shouldn't do that, I wouldn't want anyone's lasagnas to crack. So garnish. Some people like it, some people don't. During quarantine, I always was telling my clients, like, since you're not going to a restaurant, make your home feel like a restaurant. And I think when we garnish our food, we feel fancier and it makes it look like we're at a restaurant. So if you have like extra basil leaves, just actual, like the large leaves, this is called a chiffonade. And all you do is you roll it up like a little cigar and place it on a cutting board and run your knife through it. And you get little basil ribbons that you can just sprinkle over your whole lasagna or individual pieces, depending how fancy you want to get. And so I'm going to set that aside. And as for parsley garnish, I just like to grab a bunch of parsley, take off like the big stem, roll it up like pretty tight. And I'm not going to sit there and pick off leaves. Nobody has time for that. And it's okay to eat the stem. And give that a chop. Watch your fingers. Use a bigger knife than what I'm using. And I want it finer. So I turn my cutting board and just run my knife through it. And you should use a chef's knife, not a little paring knife, but it's okay. Until you get fine pieces of parsley that you can just sprinkle on top of your lasagna, just to add some freshness. How's everybody doing? Cool. Plating. This is the art. I love making food as art. It's good for nourishing us, but it's also good, you know, just to have this, like, make it look pretty. Everyone's putting food on Instagram, or at least I am. So I like to make it look pretty. So here's a lasagna that I cooked off before class. And way I like to serve it, I love these little gratin dishes I got at Sur La Table. They're really cute. Ina Garten always uses them. And I just feel like when you're at a restaurant, they'll serve like baked ziti in this or lasagna in this. So why not get them for home and make your dinner a little more special? So I'm just gonna cut a piece of lasagna. Another thing I'll do is if like I'm repeating lasagna for the next day, I will take this dish and I'll do it today. I'll add a little sauce to the bottom because again, I love sauce. And I think there's never enough sauce with lasagna. So add a little sauce to the bottom. And then I'll put my lasagna right on top. And if I wanted to, I could add a little more sauce, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna do maybe a little Parmesan on top. And this just makes it special for your family and for you. Little sprinkle of parsley. Oops. And I could do the little chiffonade of basil if I want to, or since I have like the cute little basil that sticks together, you can just put it on top like so and serve. I'm gonna go over here. And this is a really, don't mind that part of the basil, pretty way of serving your lasagna. So it looks like you're at a restaurant, but in your home kitchen. So how's everybody doing? And do you guys have any questions?
Can I ask, this is Elaine, I'd like to ask a question about herbs. So I'm in the Chicago area. We don't get a lot of light in the winter. And I've tried growing herbs on my windowsill without any extra light and they don't do well. So I've been looking at different hydroponic planters on Amazon. If you have anybody have any recommendations or do you have any suggestions?
I'm gonna show you what I have. Hold on.
Oh, fun.
So I got this. This is my daughter's project right now. So we got this a long time ago. What we just decided to open it up.
Wow.
Click and Grow.
Click and Grow.
Click and Grow. And
Oh,
we're
Click and Grow. Okay, I'm gonna write this down.
growing basil right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Hold on, let me plug it in. I'll show you. It's on our countertop. Oh, why isn't it lighting? Oh, there we go. And it lights up. And so we've got 3 pods of basil and it's hydroponic. The water's in here. It comes with instructions. And this, we started this last week and you can see like it's already budding. We already
goodness.
Yeah. And it comes with like these stakes that you can put in once we're done, when they get bigger. So that's what we're doing in California.
Can you grow, in California, can you grow other things in there?
I don't know because she's the one who opened the box.
Oh, okay.
This is her project.
I'll look it up. I will look it up.
It's called Click and Grow.
Okay, got it. Great.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it grow.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. How's everyone's lasagnas doing? Does your kitchen smell nice and garlicky?
It smells so good. I have 3 minutes on the timer. I can't wait to take it out.
I'll check my timer. I've got 3 minutes also. So that's how I do lasagna and getting more vegetables into my family's diet. And you can do lasagna again with any vegetable you want. You can have sauteed eggplant, zucchini, squash, and layered that in between. And I know we've got some gluten-free people here and dairy-free people. So if you didn't even want to use noodles, you could absolutely just use zucchini, just cutting zucchini really thin and use that as your noodles. It becomes a little watery because zucchini is a lot of water. And you might notice actually with your pesto tonight, it might be a little watery. It's okay because it's going to reabsorb. And when you put it into the fridge, it's going to dry out a little bit. So it's okay if you see some water tonight. Anyone have any questions or should I keep going?
If I hadn't found my gluten-free pasta, I think I was gonna use strips of polenta. You can get tubes of polenta and slice them like
Yes,
noodles.
I haven't tried that, but you absolutely could do polenta. I would definitely slice it on like the rounds, like on the thinner side, like not too thin where they're gonna break, but just you don't want them too thick because the layers will become too thick.
I was actually thinking of putting it on the long, like slicing it on the long side, so it almost looked like lasagna noodles. Not quite, but
Yeah, you could do that too.
Yeah,
Same thing
yeah.
like when you have a zucchini, slice it lengthwise instead of in rounds.
exactly. Yeah.
Cool. See everybody who has their cameras on working. And hopefully those who don't have their cameras on are enjoying learning and taking notes so they can make this for another time. And I'm waiting for my lasagna to get out so I can put the cheese on it. But I also want to tell you about classes that I teach. In February, I have classes for adults and teens and families, and they're all on my Instagram page. And if I also have a newsletter that goes out bi-weekly, and if you want to get on that, I know Mary is going to put in the chat my Instagram handle and my email, and you can always get on my newsletter list. And you can see what classes are coming up and what discounts are offered. But on Instagram, I tend to offer more tips like I'm doing tonight and just show you what I'm making. And I know a friend of mine had looked at my mac and cheese the other day, screenshot it, and then texted me. She's like, okay, so now I'm going to do this, this, and this. I'm like, all right, yep, that's correct. So some people will just screenshot ideas and make it for a later time. Oh, that's my lasagna. I'm going to go cheese it. I'll be right back. I'm sure everyone else are going off too. Off my lasagna and it was doing what it was supposed to be doing, where it was bubbling along the side, and I just added some mozzarella to it. I'll add Parmesan to it when it comes out. I didn't feel the need to add it right then and there. And I just set it for 5 minutes, but you can do it for 5-10 minutes depending on your oven.
When you add the Parmesan afterwards, do you then bake it again for a few more minutes?
No, I will just add it how I did it here. You know, like when you're at a restaurant and the waiter comes by with the Parmesan. So I kind of add it like that, but you can absolutely add it at the same time as you do the mozzarella. It's dealer's choice.
I have a 5-year-old who really loves sprinkling the Parmesan, so I'll save it for him to do.
I have one of those too. 12, and I had he lost the lid. I bought like one of the Parmesan things, you know, that they have at pizza places, and the lid is missing. But I loved it because then I could just, you know, you could sprinkle for everybody, or even if you put it like in a cute ramekin, and they can go around sprinkling. I just think it's fun. I think if you have kids, I think this is a really fun recipe to do with kids because they cannot mess it up. It builds confidence in kids to make something like this. This is a very kid-friendly recipe to do because they're not over a stove and you can put it in the oven for them. And it's a great recipe because they're using a food processor and they get to press buttons. And which kid does not like to press a button? Not their parents' button, but just buttons on machines. And they get to use their hands. So there's a lot of sensory stuff too. They're getting, you know, all different textures and layering. And it's really good and it's good for adults too. Executive functioning. No matter what age we are, we want to make sure our executive functioning is intact. And so it's all about sequencing. And so I just think this is just a really, really good recipe for so many reasons. Has anyone taken their lasagna out? Did anyone's cook faster than the rest of us?
Well, I checked and it looks like it's bubbling, but I'm gonna give it another 2 minutes and then I'll take the cover off and let it sit for another 10 minutes.
Okay.
but it
cool.
smells delicious.
And I know it's like I want you guys to take a bite while I'm here, but if not, at least tell me how it is. And if anyone is like me who takes pictures of their food too much, and you post it on social media, i.e. Instagram, you can tag me and then I can see how well you did, which I'm sure you all did great. And hopefully you all caught up and hopefully it wasn't overwhelming and you'll do it again and get creative and create other different combinations.
I'd like to add something about another way to make pesto. There's a wild plant called wild garlic mustard, and you'll see it growing by the sides of the road, at least in the Northeast. And if you harvest it like March or April, it started coming up early in the pandemic. And just you can follow some recipes, just cut it up and put it in a food processor and add some nuts and Parmesan cheese and make pesto out of it.
Oh, that sounds
I've made cilantro pesto and it's fabulous.
right? Like any green can be pestofied. The other thing that's really good, arugula walnut is like one of my favorites, and I'll use walnut oil. I don't know if you guys have ever tried walnut oil, and walnuts are so good for you. And I think they're less expensive than pine nuts. It's really pine nuts and walnuts I think do really well with pestos, and you can even omit nuts, and I omit cheese in mine because my son has to eat it. Not has to, sorry. He's dairy free, so I don't want the extra cheese in there for him.
But you know, Parmesan cheese can be digested for lactose intolerant people, and mozzarella as well.
Absolutely. He's like a cheese thief. And so I kind of have to like balance it. So it doesn't need to be in pesto because I know he's going to, steal it another time. But yes, mozzarella and parm, I do allow him to have. And this ricotta is a sheep's milk ricotta. And he can digest that well too. It's Bellwether Farms. I don't know if you guys have that on the East Coast or not, but I don't know if they're based in Sonoma. I can't remember, but it's a cheese that I happen to like out here.
Just took the cover off. I'm going to do another 10 minutes.
Okay, cool.
And I'm done. Anyway, thank you very much. I'm going to be heading out.
It was nice meeting you.
It was nice cooking with you. Thank you for the recipe and for all the tips. I enjoyed it very much.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. I'm still here if anyone has any questions.
I just want to say thank you. I know I was really behind before, but it's in the oven and it really was very easy. I just was very behind. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad it was easy. I want to hear easy and good. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah,
Easy.
my son's really excited to try it because pesto is one of his favorite foods and he's a very picky eater. So he's like super excited.
This is a good one for picky eaters. This is such a good recipe to get the picky eaters to try different things because they can't pick things out. And I think that's the key to getting over picky eating is if they can't sit there and pluck the food out of the food.
Well, the good thing is that I'm trying to convince my son that the parsley and the basil is really the spinach, but because he'll eat the parsley and the basil. Yeah. But, if it's all mixed, you don't know which one it is.
Exactly. So they can't be like, I don't like spinach, but you're eating it.
Well, my son says he doesn't, he's going to try it, even though there's spinach in it, because he was looking how many cups, and he's a teenager. Okay. Mind you.
Oh,
my God.
Yeah. I'm a former, let me turn off my timer because that's like really intrusive of the kind of speak.
Did you hear me talking bad about you?
Yeah, I'm a former picky eater, and I still consider myself a picky eater. And so I did not grow up eating spinach. Like it just was not something that was served in my household. Anyway, this is how I like my cheese, whereas my husband would need it like golden brown, but this is how I like it. So yeah, so for picky eaters, I totally know how to get to picky eaters since I was once one. And if you just keep reintroducing, they'll grow out of it. Not for every single thing, that there's still things I will not eat, but look, this is like, for all intents and purposes, minus all the cheese, but cheese still is a lot of protein and you need the calcium. It's a healthy recipe. And so my whole thing with picky eaters is that just reintroduce, and as long as they're not being so picky on fruits and vegetables and protein, it's okay. Like that's my philosophy. And I used to help before the pandemic, I was doing consulting with kids and trying to help kids get off of sugar and get them eating more fruits and vegetables. So it helped families do that. And so I was always trying to find ways to get vegetables into kids and fruits, but not in a sneaky way. Like, I don't believe in putting it in brownies, because if you go to Starbucks, they're like, I want a brownie. You're like, well, you can't have this one, only the one I made. And that's because you're sneaking food, so you're not being truthful. But if it's in something like lasagna, spinach belongs in lasagna, but not in a brownie. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I deal with picky eaters.
Well, I'll let you know.
Yes, I would love to know. I hope it works out. And I hope he's like, wow, so good. And then suddenly you have a new dish and you're getting different greens into him.
Right.
For fruits, making fruit kebabs is fun, especially rainbow colors for kids who are little kids who are really into the rainbow. So they get to choose what to do, and it works. Do you put recipes in your Instagram or just the pictures?
I have some recipes with some of the pictures. And then some, because as you see tonight, like, I don't love getting married to measurements. And so I will just list off like what I did, just so people become more comfortable in the kitchen. Because I think when there's so many things with measurements, I think that can overwhelm people. And I think when you're just like loosey-goosey, like, I did this, I did this, I did this. And I try to keep my recipes really simple and easy. So that's what you'll find on Instagram.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Anyone else's lasagna come out yet?
Mine just went in, and the Barilla pasta, the gluten-free stuff says bake for 40 minutes, remove foil, and bake an additional 20 minutes, and then let rest for 15 before cutting. It'll be a little while before dinner. That's fine.
That's nuts. That's good to know, though.
Yeah.
I must
This is
say
a
that
great class. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
I didn't find any fresh basil in the stores around here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, but I did find some pesto that I had made this summer, frozen in tablespoon measures. So I took out a bunch of it and threw it in. It smelled delicious. So.
Smart. That's so
Yeah.
smart. Like, when you don't live in a climate, like, we're lucky here in California to have everything year round, but when you don't live in that kind of climate, freeze it when you can and pull it out for recipes like this. I hope it turns out well. I'm sure it will.
I'm sure
Does
it will.
anyone have any more questions for Jill? Because I think we're gonna wrap it up so everybody can get to dinner. Are we good?
I think so. Is my information, you guys, if you have my recipe or whatever you have of mine, my email's on there if you want to get in the newsletter, and my Instagram handle's on there as well. So follow me there.
Okay, well, Jill, this has been absolutely fantastic, and I am really, really excited to eat dinner. So thank you. Thank you for walking us through this double delicious dinner. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing you at our next Alma Maters meeting, which we will post about as soon as we have more details. Everyone, be well, be safe, and happy belated New Year. Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Enjoy
Thank
your
you,
dinner.
Jill.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.